What's going on, basketball fans? My name is Josh and I am finally back with another video. As many of you guys know, the NBA draft lottery was last night and it had some pretty big implications on the future of the NBA. So in this video, I'll be taking a look at both the winners and the losers of the draft lottery. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you guys hit that sub button to stay up to date with the NBA videos. But without further ado, let's start off with the draft order. So the Suns received the #1 overall pick in the draft, followed by the Sacramento Kings, the Atlanta Hawks, the Memphis Grizzlies, and then the Dallas Mavericks at number 5. Some other notable picks were the Chicago Bulls, who dropped down to number 7. The Cavs got the 8th pick with the Brooklyn Nets pick. The 76ers got the 10th pick from the Lakers. And the Clippers got the 12th pick from the Blake Griffin trade from the Pistons. So the first loser of the NBA draft lottery has to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not only did they take a massive L versus the Boston Celtics in Game 2, the pick that they acquired in the Kyrie Irving trade from Brooklyn landed at number 8 overall. When the Cavs traded Kyrie Irving, they received Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and the Brooklyn Nets pick for 2018 in return. Kyrie, being 25 years old at the time, was still one of the best players in the NBA, and they hoped to get an equal value back in the trade. But as we know, that just didn't happen. Isaiah Thomas only played 15 games for the Cavs, and him and Jay Crowder were shipped off in February right before the trade deadline. Ante Zizic rides the bench every single game. And the last and only redeeming factor of the entire trade was the Brooklyn Nets pick, and honestly, it didn't land as high as the Cavs had been hoping for. In the previous 2 years, Boston actually owned the rights to the Brooklyn pick, and it was top 3 both years. They acquired Jaylen Brown and most recently, Jason Tatum. And the Cavs were hoping for the exact same luck in 2018, but unfortunately, to put the cherry on top of this atrocious NBA season, they were unable to even land in the top 5, let alone top 7. They finished at number 8. Now we all know the biggest story revolving around the Cavaliers this year is the future of LeBron James. We don't know whether or not he's going to stay or leave Cleveland, but the question is the 8th pick enough value to keep the king in Cleveland? In my opinion, no. Because teams aren't going to be willing to trade a superstar for the 8th pick. And at number 8, some of the top players in the draft will be gone at that point. Right now, they're projected to take Trae Young, and Trae Young is a huge question mark heading into the NBA draft. So we'll see what happens with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but they are definitely the first loser of the night. The next loser are the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were an absolute disaster this season. In their defense, Marc Gasol and Mike Conley missed a ton of games and the team tanked as expected. But the issue is, Memphis, who had the 2nd worst record in the league, was projected to have the 2nd pick in the draft. Makes sense, right? Unfortunately, the Kings jumped into the top 3 and pushed the Grizzlies down to the 4th overall pick in the draft. From number 2, they fell to number 4. Now don't get me wrong, there's still going to be a ton of talented players at number 4, but not the same as number 2, because at number 2, you're looking at either DeAndre Ayton and most likely Luka Doncic, but now you're going to have to settle with players slightly less talented, like possibly Marvin Bagley, Jaren Jackson, Michael Porter Jr. But if you're a Memphis fan, it's gotta suck, because the team doesn't really have a lot of good young talent outside of Dillon Brooks. Marc Gasol and Mike Conley are entering the latter halves of their career, and Memphis is going to need some young talent if they want to get back to where they were the previous decade. Now the next loser are the Dallas Mavericks. Dirk Nowitzki's tweet really summarizes Dallas's night in a couple of words. They slipped from the projected number 3 spot down to number 5. So just like Memphis, they fell 2 spots because Sacramento jumped into the top 3. The Mavs, who had the 3rd worst record in the league, was once again projected the 3rd overall pick, but the ping pong balls just did not land in their favor. They had a 42% chance of landing in the top 3. Dallas though is in a much better position than Memphis, just based on the fact that they already have a player with a lot of promise. That guy is Dennis Smith Jr. As a rookie, Dennis Smith Jr. had a monster season and definitely has a lot of potential. And at number 5, the Mavs are looking at guys possibly like Mo Bamba, possibly Michael Porter Jr., and even Jaren Jackson. These are 3 talented bigs that could provide good minutes for the Dallas Mavericks and could be the next heir to the throne after Dirk Nowitzki. Now for Dallas, it could have been a lot better, but it also could have been a lot worse. So that's why I have them at my third loser. Now besides that, not many other teams took L's on draft lottery night, but I want to give an honorable mention to the Chicago Bulls. They dropped down one spot from the 6th pick to the 7th pick, but honestly, other teams had it slightly worse, like the Grizzlies and like the Dallas Mavericks. So to recap, the 3 biggest losers of the draft lottery were the Cleveland Cavaliers, Memphis Grizzlies, and the Dallas Mavericks. So now let's take a look at some of the dubs. Let's take a look at some of the winners. Of course, we have the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have had some tough years, but they do have a bright spot in young star Devin Booker. A couple of weeks ago, Devin Booker said that he is done not making the playoffs, and I think with tonight's results, the Suns are going to have a great chance of making the playoffs here in a couple of years. Now they have a ton of options with the #1 overall pick, but even going broader than that, you have to be happy for Phoenix Suns fans, because last year, Phoenix was projected to be in the top 3 and they ended up falling to number 4 where they took Josh Jackson. But this year, projected to get #1, they finished with the #1 overall pick, and that's great for a city that's been struggling for years. Now they've got a ton of nice young players like Marquise Chris, Dragon Bender, Josh Jackson, Devin Booker, as I've mentioned. Now for the next couple of months, the question is going to be, who is Phoenix going to take with the #1 overall pick? I don't see them trading the pick because it really doesn't make sense, but the decision will come down to either picking Luka Doncic or DeAndre Ayton. Now, as some of you may know, the Phoenix Suns' new coach actually coached Luka Doncic over in Europe, and he's very familiar with the player. But as for DeAndre Ayton, he's coming out of the University of Arizona, which is close to Phoenix. So, you know, Phoenix has a ton of things to look at. Do they want to go with a big? Do they want to go with a 6'8" point guard in Doncic? It's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing, but the Suns definitely took a W tonight. Now, the next winner are the Atlanta Hawks. Just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, the Hawks were a 60-win team with all-stars like Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, and now they're at the bottom of the lottery. Who would have thought? But things are looking up for Atlanta. Right now, they don't really have a standout player, a standout young player outside of John Collins. But with the 3rd pick in a draft loaded with young talent, they should be able to bring in a young guy who can help right off the bat. Now, we don't really know who's going to be available at the 3rd overall pick, but we can assume that it's not going to be either DeAndre Ayton or Luka Doncic, as they're most likely going to go 1 and 2. But at number 3, you're going to have Marvin Bagley available, Jaren Jackson available, Michael Porter Jr., who is a huge risk, but possibly a huge reward. But yeah, the Hawks got a great, potentially franchise-changing asset with the 3rd pick in the draft, and it'll be very interesting to see what they do with that pick. Now, the final winner that I have are the Sacramento Kings. Now, this is no question. They made the biggest leap out of any team in the draft lottery as they jumped from number 7 to number 2 overall. Sacramento is one of the most desperate teams in the NBA because after they traded DeMarcus Cousins, they were quick to start a rebuild and things just didn't go as planned. Buddy Hield didn't really turn into the next Kobe Bryant, and their pick that they got last year was at number 5. But this year things are looking a lot better. They've got a very nice young core with De'Aaron Fox, Bogdanovich, Buddy Hield, Willie Cauley-Stein, just to name a few. And I think with the number 2 pick, you're going to possibly bring in a franchise-changing player, hopefully in either Luka Doncic or DeAndre Ayton. Now obviously their decision depends on what the Phoenix Suns do, and honestly there's no concrete answer with who's going to go number 1. But finally, it's nice to hear the Kings actually taking a dub for once, because they've been like the laughingstock of the NBA for the last couple of years. The Kings have the biggest postseason drought right now in the NBA. They haven't made the playoffs since 2006, but I think with this 2nd pick, they're going to acquire some nice young talent who could hopefully propel them back into the playoffs. But it's going to take a long time for that to happen. But if you're a Kings fan, things are definitely on the come up. So to recap, my 3 winners of the draft lottery were the Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks, and of course, the Sacramento Kings. So the NBA draft is less than 2 months away, and I am so excited for it. If you guys are too, make sure you hit that like button, also hit that subscribe button for more NBA content. I should have some more playoff stuff coming out here in the next couple of days, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.